Regarding the war in Syria, there are many different groups active in this war, whether they were there to begin with or they're simply a nation butting into someone else's business. There are a number of key issues that needed to be addressed, which are separating the rebels from actual jihadist groups or finding homes for millions of Syrian refugees that are affected by the atrocities of war. The involvement of these groups in the Syrian war are fueled with different views clashing, establishing their ideology and trying to find peace through fighting and violence. Mixed up with all of this commotion and fighting is a group established with a history of bloodshed and unmerciful reign. It is the Islamic State of Iraq, or known as ISIS. To understand the rise of ISIS, we need to rewind to 1979, where the Soviet Union attacked Afghanistan to stop a puppet dictator. Among the resistance in Afghanistan was a young religious man known by the name of Osama bin Laden, as well as another well-educated individual called Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. These two individuals never got along, but these two will eventually create two groups known as ISIS, led by Zarqawi, and Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden. In 1989, the Soviets withdraw from Afghanistan. Most resistant fighters eventually go home, in which Osama bin Laden grows Al-Qaeda into a global network, while Zarqawi also tries to lead a group, but it ends up in failure. In 2001, Al-Qaeda attacks America, which is now known as 9/11. America suffered thousands of casualties, which eventually led them on invading Afghanistan in the same year. Osama bin Laden eventually flees to Pakistan, while Abu Musab flees to a remote and tiny place in Iraq. In 2003, US, under the instruction of George Bush, invades Iraq as well as launching airstrikes across the country, which eventually disbands the Iraqi army, and due to the many unemployed soldiers, they join the Sunni insurgency, and among them is al-Zarqawi, who has his own group and maintains a reputation for being ruthless. By 2004, Al-Qaeda joins Zarqawi's group and make Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Eventually, Zarqawi's group turn on him and he gets killed in an airstrike. In 2011, the US leaves Iraq, and in the following year, the Arab Spring sprouts out across the Middle East, and at the same year, Syria starts its own civil war. But back in Iraq, Zarqawi's group still together, but now known as the Islamic State in Iraq, led by a scholar called Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Then in 2013, al-Baghdadi declares that he will now rule all the Al-Qaeda allied forces, both in Syria and Iraq, which is why they are known as ISIS. There are many reasons or assumptions as to why ISIS is as powerful as they are. One reason for ISIS' rise is that Assad tolerates ISIS. He allows them to continue to wreak havoc purely because it separates Assad's enemies, and foreign powers don't really focus on him much. Now that we understand how ISIS came to power, and know some of the recent attacks that they have caused, especially the France shootings, can their actions eventually lead to a genocide? Well, even though they have committed multiple massacres, could their actions be classified as a genocide? Well, the answer is no. As the previous video covering the steps of genocide, it is really clear that their action so far isn't a genocide. But this goes without saying that with ISIS' power and influence, they could start or at least attempt a genocide. Only their future actions can define their intentions. Until then, nothing is for certain. Thank you for watching.